Is Jesper Bratt a top 20 winger in the NHL? If not top 20, top 25, top 30 maybe? And also, let's look at Nolan Foote's new deal with New Jersey. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils are of Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Don't you just love the month of August where the news is incredibly slow? You got people like me just itching for some sort of content to discuss on their platform. Can it just be hockey season already? Don't get me wrong. I enjoy baseball. I enjoyed the Olympics. By the way, shout out to Devils play-by-play announcer Bill Spalding. He did an excellent job calling the track events for NBC. Nice to get that sort of representation. But digressing a little bit, I enjoy baseball. I enjoyed the Olympics. I've been enjoying the new college football video game. It is addictive. Like, I can't put down the controller, but I am just geared up for hockey season. I want preseason. I want training camp. I want the regular season. Hell, I want the playoffs. No. I'm going to go a step further. Can Dawson Mercer please sign his new contract? Just something. Luckily, sometimes God hears and answers prayers because we have some interesting topics to discuss on today's episode. We're going to talk about the curious case of Nolan Foote. That's a name that not many people have been talking about, but he recently signed a new contract with the Devils. And I want to refresh everybody of what Nolan Foote is capable of doing. And then in segments 2 and 3, we're going to talk about the best player in the NHL. Okay, I'm not going to go that far. One of the best wingers in the NHL, if that's not that big of a hot topic, it's Jesper Bratt, because NHL Network recently revealed their top 20 wingers right now. And Jesper Bratt was not included on that list. Now, for the sake of argument, I think if there were 5 more spots open, maybe you would see Jesper Bratt's name, but that was a big discussion on social media. I chimed in on it, and I wanted to discuss it on today's episode. I had a few hours to reflect and digest it, and I think I'm ready to give my thoughts on the matter. Jesper Bratt, he had a phenomenal 2023-2024 season, but does it quantify for him to be named to the top list of wingers in the NHL? We'll discuss that in segment 2, but let's discuss Nolan Foote. Courtesy of the Devils PR team, here's some information regarding Foote and his new contract. The Devils announced on August 12th that Nolan Foote signed a 1-year, 2-way contract worth $825,000 at the NHL level and $150,000, $200,000 guaranteed at the AHL level. The announcement was made by President and General Manager Tom Fitzgerald. Foote has played in 23 career NHL games with a total of 8 points, 6 goals, 2 assists with New Jersey. The left shot winger made his NHL debut and tallied his first career point on April 18th, 2021 against the New York Rangers. I actually remember watching that game live. At that point, the Devils season was more than over, and it was basically the New Jersey Comets at that point because the Devils were bringing up all sorts of prospects to dip their toe at the NHL level, and you saw people like Foote be given a chance, but going back to his new contract and his past NHL experience, since the 2020-2021 season, he has spent time with New Jersey's AHL affiliate in Binghamton and Utica, playing in 138 career regular season contests. Foote has recorded 90 points, 44 goals, 46 assists at the AHL level, and his 5 game-winning goals were tied for first on Utica with Graham Clark during the 2022-2023 season. New Jersey originally acquired Foote and a first-round pick in the 2020 NHL draft in a trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning on February 16th, 2020. He skated in 195 WHL career games with Kelowna, posting 83 goals and 88 assists for 171 points, registering 167 penalty minutes, and served as the club's captain for the 2019-2020 season. And yes, he is the son of two-time Stanley Cup champion Adam Foote, who played 1,154 career games over a 19-career span in the NHL. It's a shame that the Foote name has seen itself in the mud as of late because of what happened with Cal Foote and his Team Canada scandal. Yes, Nolan and Cal are related, but let's focus on Nolan Foote and what he could potentially bring to the Devils at some point. All right, I had Jersey Joe on this show a few days ago, and Nolan Foote's name was mentioned, albeit briefly. People are wondering, what happened to Nolan Foote? Well, he sustained an upper body injury during training camp, and he began the year on the injured reserve list. And the initial expectation was that he would return in late November 2023. But that was not the case. He did not return until late February 2024. And that's where he finished off with the Comets on a conditioning loan. This past season with the Comets, he appeared in 4 games. He had 3 goals, 1 assist for a grand total of 4 points. And he actually did suit up in a few games for Devils this season. He scored 1 goal in 4 game appearances. I know a lot of people probably don't have high expectations for Nolan Foote, and I can totally understand it because the Devils right now are at a point where they're focusing less on their young guns, their prospects, and just focusing more on their already established players so that way they can make a push for the playoffs. And Jersey Joe kind of acknowledged it when Nolan Foote's name was mentioned. And he said that Foote is kind of teetering between someone who has a decent amount of NHL experience and a prospect because, like I said, he doesn't have that much experience playing at the NHL level. He's only appeared in 23 career NHL games, but he is 23 and he will turn 24 come November. Like Jersey Joe said, he's sort of bridging that gap between prospect and someone who we shouldn't consider a prospect, if that makes sense. I don't know the proper terminology, but I guess just a regular player. Last season for Utica, he appeared in 55 games. He had 20 goals, 17 assists for a grand total of 37 points. Not bad. The year prior, 55 games, 14 goals, 18 assists, 32 points. And then during the 2021 COVID-shortened year, when the Devils' AHL affiliate was still the Binghamton Devils, he appeared in 24 games, had 7 goals, 10 assists for a grand total of 17 points. My expectations for Nolan Foote down the road are anywhere from moderate to low, but I think he still has some potential upside. Here's what a few scouts had to say about him initially. Foote has the hockey IQ that is expected of a bloodlines player and relishes bringing the game to the opponents. Another report says he's powerful on the puck, and when he asserts himself, he's unstoppable, bull on the wall or in straight line to the net. Those are some of the things that people were talking about Nolan Foote a few years ago. And I think he could be maybe anywhere from a filler to a solid contributor for a time being. But like I said, the Devils roster is pretty much set in stone at this point. Let Nolan Foote just spend some time in the AHL, get his legs back underneath him because he did miss significant time due to injury. And like I said, my expectations for him, not all that high, but sometimes if you don't have high expectations on someone, they can surprise you. We'll see what happens, but basically just wanted to catch you up on Nolan Foote and his new contract circumstance with the Devils. Now, before we talk about Jesper Bratt, which some might say on social media that he is the best player in the NHL, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets. I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Visit FanDuel.com to look at the odds. And please remember to always gamble responsibly. All right, let's talk about the best player in the NHL, shall we? Or maybe just the best player on the Devils roster during the 2023-2024 season, and that is Jesper Bratt. Like I mentioned at the top of the episode, NHL Network released their top 20 wingers right now. At number 1, Nikita Kucherov. Number 2, Matthew Tkachuk. And I'll just go down the line from here. Mikko Rantanen, David Pastrnak, Artemi Panarin, Jason Robertson, Kirill Kaprizov, William Nylander, Sam Reinhart, Mitch Marner, 11 through 20, Zach Hyman. In my opinion, I think Hyman should be a little higher, 50-plus goal season, and his team did make it to the Stanley Cup final for what it's worth. Number 12, Brady Tkachuk. No, he's not coming to New Jersey anytime soon. 13, Steven Stamkos, then Philip Forsberg, now teammates. Kyle Connor, Jake Gensel. Let's see what he does with the Lightning. Clayton Keller for the Utah Hockey Club. Hopefully they get a name soon. Brad Marchand, the Nose or the Rat. Alexander Ovechkin was a cone during the playoffs. And Travis Konecny. Those are your top 20 wings according to NHL Network. And that got a lot of people from the Devils discourse buzzing on social media because they're like, where's Jesper Bratt? And I was no exception. I got the Bratt Pack involved. I posted my own respective tweet. And I figured, I think this is a big enough topic for me to discuss on today's show. So in this segment, we're going to revisit Jesper Bratt's 2023-2024 season that saw him earn an all-star roster spot in Toronto for the first time in his career. And then in the third segment, I'll talk about my expectations for Jesper Bratt moving forward, because this season wasn't really ideal for New Jersey with the amount of injuries they had to deal with. All right. When looking at this list, do I think it's fair that Jesper Bratt was left off of it? When I look at 1 through 10, I'm not even going to make an argument for that. And like I said, I think Zach Hyman should be a couple positions higher, but that's my personal opinion. But let's look at some of the lower levels of that list. Let's look at 15 through 20. Should Jesper Bratt be included somewhere in this respective list? All right. Let's look at his stats, and then I will compare it to a couple other players on this list. All right. Jesper Bratt appeared in all 82 games for the Devils. He was one of the rare players to not deal with an injury or not to be scratched. He, Luke Hughes, Kevin Ball, Dawson Mercer, and Alexander Holtz suited up in all 82 games for the Devils, a season that was plagued with injuries. He had 27 goals, second on the team behind Timo Meier. He was first on the team in assists with 56. He led the team in points with 83. He had 4 power play goals, fourth on the team. He had 20 power play assists, third on the team. So he had 24 total power play points. 7 game-winning goals, first on the team. He had an offensive point shares rating of 6.5, first on the team. A 1.7 defensive point share rating, sixth on the team. That gave him a point share rating of 8.2, first on the team. He was third on the team in time on the ice. He was right behind Vitek Vanecek, who led the team, believe it or not, and Luke Hughes. That one actually surprised me. I know Luke Hughes carried a lot of minutes for the Devils on the blue line, but I didn't think it was that many minutes. But anyway, the stats for Jesper Bratt, I just listed them. He led the Devils in a lot of key categories. And when we look at some of the other players that were on the list, Travis Konecny, when I just look at games played, goals, assists, and points, he appeared in 76 games for the Philadelphia Flyers. He had 33 goals, 35 assists for a grand total of 68 points. Kyle Connor, he appeared in 65 games for the Winnipeg Jets. He had 34 goals, 27 assists for a grand total of 61 points. And Alexander Ovechkin. I'm not going to make an argument that Alexander Ovechkin should be left off this list. I'm not going to go there because Alexander Ovechkin, let me just get this out the way while I'm still on this topic. Ovi is one of the best players to play in the NHL. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. At this point in his career, he is just trying to surpass Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record. And this isn't like the mid-2010s where Ovechkin's going to give you back-to-back 50-plus goal seasons. That's just not in his arsenal because he's grown old. And as we all know in sports, father time is undefeated. And like I said a few minutes ago, Ovi was nothing more than just a cone on the sheet of ice when the Capitals were in the playoffs and people were making fun of him on social media because he had a beer belly. People can talk about Ovechkin all they want, but the one thing I can't take away from him is that he is one of the best players to ever play this game, and you have to show him respect by including him on the list. And maybe I'm just a little biased because my other favorite sport and athlete is basketball, and my favorite athlete in basketball is LeBron James. And as we all know, LeBron is old. He's 40 years old, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if LeBron averages like 30 points per game or 20 points per game or 15 points per game, which he's never gotten to that point. But the point I'm just trying to say is that you still got to put LeBron on that list as long as he's still playing because he's one of the best to ever do it. And the same can apply for Alexander Ovechkin. That might be a hot take. I get people's complaints, but I'm just leaving it at that point. All right. The thing is like, Jesper Bratt had better stats than Travis Konecny and Kyle Connor. Why is he left off this list? All right. I'm going to be completely honest. I can see both sides, and I might be a little controversial. I can see people who want him on the list or people who feel like he shouldn't be on the list. I see both sides of the coin in this sort of aspect. Jesper Bratt had a phenomenal season for the Devils. But the problem is like they dealt with a lot of injuries, and I think people might have this mindset like, well, the scoring has to come from somebody, and it just so happens to be Jesper Bratt. That's just an example. That's not my personal opinion. I think Jesper Bratt has made big strides, but I think whoever was doing this list is still a little hesitant to say that Jesper Bratt is one of the best wingers in the NHL because I think this past season for Bratter, he really did put a lot of people on notice because when Nico Hischier went down, when Jack Hughes went down, it was him being consistent. It was Jesper Bratt leading the way offensively and leading the Devils in a lot of crucial stats. And for the first time in his career, he averaged more than a point per game. That's great. But I think people also look at it as a lame duck season for Devils because let's be honest, their season was pretty much over in January and they showed no signs of getting out the gutter. They tried everything. It just wasn't going to work. Nothing could save the Devils this past season. And I think people started to turn off Devils games once they realized that this Devils team is not going back to the playoffs. And I guess Jesper Bratt once again fell into the dark a little bit because he was starting to come out into this light where people are like, hey, Jesper Bratt's actually pretty good. The Devils are pretty good too. It's him, Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, that's the core four out in New Jersey. And then they start to become inconsistent. And I guess people forgot about Jesper Bratt because, once again, didn't matter if Jesper Bratt had a good game. The Devils continued to lose. So I think this past season for the Devils really hurt Bratt in terms of him getting more attention and more respect throughout the league. And when I look at this list, a majority of these players play on playoff caliber rosters like Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Reinhart. They just won a Stanley Cup. I just mentioned Zach Hyman. His team went to the Stanley Cup final and lost to Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Reinhart. Or Nikita Kucherov. He was a Hart Trophy winner just a few years ago, and he won the Art Ross Trophy for the second time in his career. Or I know Clayton Keller played on the Arizona Coyotes before they transitioned to Utah. But Clayton Keller was really one of the few bright spots for the Coyotes. He went to 3 straight All-Star games, and Jesper Bratt made his first All-Star game appearance. And remember, Jesper Bratt originally wasn't on the roster. He didn't get in initially. He didn't win the fan vote because he had no chance of competing with the other players that played on Canadian teams, especially with the All-Star game taking place in Toronto. Discussion for another time. He was replacing Jack Hughes, who was injured, and I guess people just said, oh, he's just a fill-in. Or look at Brady Tkachuk. Yes, the Senators continue to perform below expectations, but I had Murray Pam on this show who covers the Ottawa Senators, has been doing so for many years. He said that Brady Tkachuk has been doing things in the NHL that a lot of players haven't been able to do in a very, very long time. And that's one of the reasons why people want Brady Tkachuk to come over to the roster. So basically the point I'm just trying to make is that Jesper Bratt, I think he's close, but not quite there in terms of being one of the top wingers in the NHL. But let me make something perfectly clear. This is a top 20 list. If there were 5 more spots open, and if it was a top 25 list or 10 more spots open in a top 30 list, then I think you would see Jesper Bratt's name. But in terms of being top 20, I can understand it. And honestly, I don't think he's that far behind. He might be ranked 21st, 22nd. I don't really know, but I think he's in the mix. He just has to be pushed over the hump just a little bit more. But I think he's heading in the right direction. And that leads into the next subject, which is what's next for Jesper Bratt. Okay, like I said in the previous segment, Jesper Bratt made huge strides with the Devils this past season. And I know a lot of people are complaining on social media that he should be a top 20 winger in the NHL. But at the same time, I don't want people to get too discouraged because I don't think Jesper Bratt is that far down the list like I've been talking about. Appearing in the All-Star game, like I said in a previous episode months back, it's going to open the door for so many more opportunities for Jesper Bratt. I think he's only getting started. And he's a very consistent player. 2021-2022 season, 76 games, 73 points. 2022-2023 season, 82 games, 73 points again. And then this past season, 83 points in 82 game appearances. Jesper Bratt is a great player, and no, he's not Casper the Ghost like some social media account is trying to make him out to be. He's nothing like that. Jesper Bratt is a great player, and he was one of the few bright spots for the Devils during the 2023-2024 season. I think if Jesper Bratt can continue his consistency, and if the Devils get better, then I think you'll see a much bigger spotlight on Jesper Bratt yet again. Because during that historic season, people were more focused on Jack Hughes and the possibility of him becoming the first player in Devils history to reach triple-digit points. And I think the biggest talking point surrounding Jesper Bratt Was he going to sign his extension? And that kind of distracted the fact that he was having a pretty good season and he was still on par as to what he did the previous season. Now that Jesper Bratt has his new contract, now that he was an all-star, now that he's really shown what he's capable of doing, I think Jesper Bratt is going to be a vital component on the Devils this upcoming season. I will leave you with these few examples. Dougie Hamilton, going into the 2022-2023 season, people sort of forgot about Dougie and what he was capable of doing, because his first season with the Devils, it was something I continue to talk about, just plagued with injuries because he suffered that facial fracture. He was sidelined for a few months. He wasn't really himself when he came back. But during that 2022-2023 season, that historic run for the Devils, we saw Dougie Hamilton just show glimpses as to why Tom Fitzgerald signed him in the first place and why Devils fans were excited for this signing a few years ago, because he put everyone on notice saying, hey, I'm still one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And then going into the 2023-2024 season, he was ranked as one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And let me just also add this. Do you know where he was ranked going into the 2022-2023 season? Well, you shouldn't know, because he was not ranked at all. So going from not being ranked to then being named one of the top defensemen in the entire NHL, I think that speaks volume as to what Dougie Hamilton was capable of doing. And then I'll also give you this example that I gave for Jack Hughes a few years ago. I didn't want Jack Hughes to just be a Devils superstar where he has a good season for Devil standards. No, I want him to be an NHL superstar. And there's a difference. Jesper Bratt is sort of the same way, but I don't think he's going to be a superstar like Jack Hughes. Let me just put that out there. But I still think he could become one of the best wingers in the NHL, and he'll get more looks and recognition if all goes well for Devils. And I think come next summer, we'll see Jesper Bratt be ranked in that top 20 winger list for NHL Network. Just my personal opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again.